Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 67 of the Focus on Gaming podcast. This week, we're going to be talking about the Sega Saturn. I am Duncan, and I'm joined by Tom. Hello.
How you doing?
All good, all good. We
Good
are
week?
just the two of us again.
Just the two.
Although Martin may join us in a minute. So we are going to do the Sega Saturn this week. Even though it is, we did horror games last week because it's Halloween. Last year, sorry. 52 episodes ago, blimey, horror games. Yeah. So we're going to do a special on Sega Saturn. You have owned one, haven't you?
Several, actually.
Several, as in like the same hardware, or did you have like prototypes or
different versions of the Sega Saturn? But I mean,
we'll have to go into what there was different versions.
Talking about horror, I mean, the Sega Saturn release was quite horrific. So so
it was a bit of a horror show, wasn't it?
Yeah. Fantastic machine, though. I mean, for a 2D machine, predominantly a 2D machine that was capable of doing 3D graphics, it was still really, really good.
Yeah, if you wanted a Sega console that did the Sega CD stuff, but
better,
slower, but better, because obviously it went, it was more of the same thing, really, wasn't it? It was FMV games, 2D games. There was 3D games, but it didn't do them very well, did it? Really,
it had Wipeout, didn't it? Surprisingly,
did it?
It did. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. Did it? I wonder if it ran as well as on the PS1 there. Yeah. I'll take that as a no.
Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah.
It was okay. That's the best way of putting it.
Well, it was released at the end of 1994, but it was a hurried thing, wasn't it? Because they were being outsold by Nintendo. PlayStation was coming along, and it was a bit of a panic thing, wasn't it? After the 32X debacle. But it was still in development for a couple of years. I think it was 92 it was being developed from. So it wasn't just let's just slap some stuff. And it worked all right. Yeah, there wasn't. It was just the fact that it came out. I'm again getting this from Wikipedia. In the US at $399.99 and the UK $399.99, 44,800 yen. Now, that is equivalent to £971 in the British price was last year's money. So even more, £9,000. And we're moaning about the PS5 Pro. So we've done the 2 weeks in a row, really, haven't we? We talked about expensive console releases. Now, this wasn't in the 3DO realms. Touching its butt, really, but not in that realm.
I mean, the 3DO was more powerful than the Sega Saturn. So
yes. And it had more arcadey games.
Yeah.
But this was Sega, and they had the Megadrive, which was cheaper than the SNES, I believe.
It was.
And it did fantastically well against your Mario and all the more powerful Super Nintendo. And it had some massive coups by getting things like Street Fighter 2 onto the hardware, and they brought out the 6-button controller, which at the time on the Mega Drive and the Genesis was like, wow, 6 buttons, excellent. We could do more with that. But then when you had the PS1 coming out with I suppose it didn't come out at launch with the dual control, but then you had the N64 with a single analog control stick, and then the Saturn came out with just basically a an updated
Mega
Megadrive
Yeah.
controller. It was
It
just
did have the limited edition rounded 6-button arcade controller that came as a limited release on System 2, if I remember, Model 2. And it was like a circular controller, and it came with the Knights game, which was initially a game.
oh yes. Oh God, I'm just looking at that. Oh God.
It was a great controller, honestly.
Was it? I mean,
Yeah.
yes, it's got an analog stick, which fantastic, but
It was a great controller. And when
was
Knights
it?
was
Well, let me just describe this, because obviously this is an audio podcast. I will actually get a picture up, but for our YouTube, it's when he says it's round, it's literally round, a circular controller with two little
nipples.
feet sticking out the bottom.
Yeah.
And then imagine it's a clock. So at 10 o'clock, there's an analog stick.
Mm-hmm.
At 8 o'clock, but in a bit, into the middle a bit, is a D-pad. And then from the middle of the clock to 2 o'clock is the 6 buttons.
Yeah. And that was released for Nights into Dreams game, which originally was a demo disc on the front of a magazine. And then because it was so successful and sought after, they actually made a game of it and released the game and the controller to go with it, because obviously it needed a certain type of controller to allow for the movement. And of course, that then fed into things like Fighter Megamix, Virtual Fighter, Street Fighter games, things like that. But I mean, it was a great controller. It was better than.
So did the analog worked with other games? Did it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So
well, I'll put a picture up of it. It'll be on our YouTube. If you just Google limited edition Sega Saturn controller, it comes up with it.
But essentially, what happened?
It's going for quite a lot on eBay. You're looking at £150 to £200. Wow.
That's just the controller, I think.
No, that's with the game. Mostly.
Is it with the game as well? Well, yeah. But they essentially, what happened at E3 when this machine was announced, the PlayStation was announced around the same time.
Well, it was just after it, wasn't it?
Yeah. So they knew what was coming, and then Sega decided to launch the console early, which not only surprised retailers, the public, but it also undercut on the price to what was expected. Retailers didn't have any units. There was very few games that were going to be available on day one release, but it was to pip the PlayStation early and try and get a run on the sales. But it annoyed so many of the retailers that many of them refused to stock it.
Yeah, and also there was a very famous, if you look it up on YouTube, it's a very famous press conference. Was it? I think we talked about last week that the PlayStation CEO or something like that, after they released for $399.99 the Saturn did, surprisingly in May '95, when PlayStation 1 was announced, he literally walked onto stage, just went $299 and walked off. And that's all he had to do, because everyone was like, woohoo, cheaper and better.
Yeah.
And it was cheaper and it was faster.
Yeah. Let's look at some of the specs for the Sega Saturn. So it's a 2X Hitachi SH2 28.6 megahertz.
Yeah, we looked up the PlayStation, I think it was 33 megahertz, I think.
It was,
so they were within the realm of each other, but there's two of them there.
2 megabytes of RAM, 1.5 megabyte of VRAM, and 512 kilobytes of sound RAM, expandable with an extended RAM cartridge that went in the back. So there was this delusion that the cartridge slot at the back would play Megadrive games, but it wouldn't. It was just for an expandable RAM slot. And I think actually Sega missed a trick, because had it been able to play Megadrive games as well, I think actually would have sold more. But hey,
well, I mean, obviously, I don't know the full techie details of the processor, and the graphics. But what I do know is that one thing that PlayStation had over it as well was the fact that it did do 3D. Like the PlayStation 1 did do 3D a lot better.
Yeah.
And if you look at the 3D games on the Saturn, they were very pixelated. It was. I'm just trying to
Tomb Raider was horrific.
So, yes, of course, because it came out on Saturn first, didn't it? Hang on.
Just to let you know, I am here.
Oh, hello, Martin.
Hi, Martin.
Been here for a good 5 minutes, but there hasn't really been a time to jump in.
Sorry, I was looking on the webpage, so I didn't actually see you there.
You were in your flow, so I was like, I'll just sit and listen.
How was your food, Martin?
Food was good. Yeah.
Takeaway?
It was, yeah. My daughter had a Halloween party, so and then she had swimming afterwards. So my partner didn't get back till a bit later on.
Good excuse for takeaway.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're just done specs of the Saturn, and we're trying to find out the resolution. Apparently, it could do up to 704 by 480, but I don't think that a lot of the 3D games could get to that much. It was probably at most the 640 by 240. It was, I'm looking at screenshots as well, and one of the last games to be released, I think it was the last game in Europe, was actually a horror game because we're at Halloween, called Deep Fear. And yeah, to be honest, for the Saturn, it looks good, but I think even the PlayStation 1 probably would have done that game a little bit better looking. So
it's interesting because some of the graphics were better on the Sega Saturn. So I've just sent some images to Duncan for the comparison. But so the Sega Saturn could draw the faces better than the PlayStation. It was dreadful with water, but in terms of the body of Lara and other characters in the game,
she's got a much more defined butt.
Yeah, the Sega Saturn was better at that than the PlayStation. So it's
PlayStation. The I don't know. It could just be the screenshot that I'm looking at here. I'm looking at comparison. Yeah, she's you. It is what you're seeing because you're seeing a view from behind her. You can see her butt crack on the PlayStation. You can't see it on the Saturn.
I want to know what's the boobs though in some of these screenshots because they.
Oh no, weird. I can't see the boobs in the screenshot. But yeah, so it looks more. Actually, yeah, I mean, some of the polygons on the screenshot that you sent me look better on the Saturn.
Yeah. And if you look at the Wipeout image I sent you, there's a comparison there as well. And really, you can't see the difference.
Although the Wipeout one, the PlayStation looks a lot better.
Do you think? I couldn't really tell the difference. Performance-wise, there was a massive difference.
It looks. If you look at the like the fuel, the shining from the back of the ship. If you see on the Saturn, it looks. You can literally see the dots on it, whereas on the PlayStation, it looks like a shine.
Yeah, I give you that. Yeah.
Both compared to the Nintendo 64.
I mean, the Nintendo 64 did polygons really well, and it could absolutely wiped the floor with the PlayStation 1 with the amount of polygons that it could do on screen. The problem that the N64 couldn't do, the N64, one, because it was a cartridge, and two, because of how the processor and graphics worked, it couldn't do texturing as well and as much because there wasn't enough storage, and that's what took up all the storage. So anything that had textured polygons on it would look worse on N64 because they just couldn't fit all the things as much as they could on the on the CD versus the cartridge. But yeah, I mean, technically, I didn't even know there was. Oh yeah, of course there was Wipeout 64,
Wipeout
was it?
Yeah.
Now, was that a direct port of Wipeout, or was it a completely different game?
I never played it. I think I owned it, but I never played it.
Looking at some screenshots, it looks pretty good. But then there wasn't very many textures in Wipeout. But so yeah, back to Saturday. What was you both have owned one. What was the must-have game that you had on there?
Daytona
for you? Yeah.
I mean, I was pretty young, so the games that I had were ones that my parents. I think I had this. I think it was Sega. They had their own soccer game. Sega International Soccer.
Oh, Virtual Soccer.
No, it had Sega in it. It was like Sega Soccer or Sega International. It had commentary in it.
Sega Worldwide Soccer.
I think it was one of the first games that had commentary in it, which was at the time was really impressive.
Yeah.
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah, there was Sega Worldwide Soccer, the Sega Worldwide Soccer, Olympic Soccer, Sega Worldwide Soccer 97, 98. So yeah, Sega Worldwide Soccer, I would guess.
It was limited, the commentary. I remember there was like, if you shot the ball, they would just say whack and stuff like that. And so it was a nice feature to have because you had never had a game with stuff. And then also I found out a sort of I wouldn't say it was a cheat, but just a sort of a way in the game where you would always score. If you shot on a certain diagonal in the corner of the 18-yard box, it would always go in the bottom corner. So it was quite an easy. Once I found that out, it was quite an easy game in the end because it was quite difficult before that. And the other game had a loaded. Did any of you play Loader? I think.
Oh yes, it was like a shooter game, wasn't it?
Yeah, you'd get like coloured keys, and then you'd have to get like a yellow key to enter the yellow zone, and you would just essentially go around and just shoot everyone. But the other games I had, I think, was more you could have like Resident Evil. I had that on the Sega Saturn, but I didn't have it that long because my brother decided to get rid of it and get a PlayStation.
There was a Street Fighter section on the Sega Saturn as well.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't know what games it included, but it looks more like Street Fighter Alpha.
I had a Sonic game on the Sega Saturn as well, but I can't remember what it was. Sonic Jam, I think that was.
Oh, that was that the 3D one, the isometric one?
I remember. Yeah, it was 3D, and you could go in. There was a bit where you could go into like a cinema and you could like watch like that.
Oh yeah. Now I'm looking at screenshots of that.
Yeah, Sonic R, Sonic Jam, Sonic 3D, Sonic 3D Blast,
Sonic and Knuckles.
There was quite a few of them actually.
And then one of the big things that contributed to the cancellation was there was Sonic Extreme that was meant to come out on it, and there was a lot of problems with it, and it was cancelled in the end. And pretty much, I think once that was cancelled, Sonic was one of the main things people wanted a Sega console for, and in 1996 was it? It was disbanded. Lifespan was 1994 to 2000, but it was discontinued in the EU and North America in 98.
The Japanese still got it.
You can probably still buy brand new ones in Japan in some of those those tech areas in Tokyo. And to be honest, it was just the Japanese though that bought it. There was 5.7 million sold in Japan compared to 1.8 in the US and 1 million in Europe, and only 500,000 in the whole rest of the world.
Yeah, I think it was limited though because there was such little amount of availability of the machine in Europe in particular, that you were struggling to get hold of it, and they peed off all the retailers. So it took a while to get things out there, and in the UK, I remember this when I was a kid, they were still selling the Mega CD and the 32X at the same time as the release of the Sega Saturn, and Woolworths stocked the Sega Saturn right next to the Mega CD, and the box art and what was on the box made the Mega CD sound much better than the Sega Saturn, although it was.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at some of the other games that were on it, and I mean, there was the classic Sega games. You had the Virtua games. So you had Virtua Cop, Virtua Fighter, Virtual On,
Die Hard,
and was it the Die Hard trilogy?
But no, Die Hard Arcade came out on Sega Saturn.
Oh, was that a light gun game or something? Or
I don't remember, but I seem to remember it being a bloody good game. I definitely owned it, but I can't remember if it was light gun or not. I just remember it being very good.
And because
and Dragoon as well, didn't you? So.
Yeah, that was like I'd never played that one, but wasn't that one where you literally flew a dragon, didn't you? Was that Panzer Dragoon?
Yeah.
It's
still quite popular. I think there's like newer games out today, the Panzer Dragoon, because it was one of those that initially it was only out in Japan, and like the American and Europeans were looking at it thinking, why can't we play this like really good game? And then I think they brought it out right at the end of its life of the Saturn. But I know I watched Console Wars, and it was mainly to do with Sega against Nintendo. But when the Saturn came out, it was more to do with Sega USA against Sega Japan. They both
fighting each other.
Yeah, because Sega USA was like, we just need to get as many games out as possible because that's what people want is games. And Sega Japan were like, no, we need quality games because you don't want to just have loads of games which are rubbish. So Sega America were just like licensing these terrible games, but getting those out. Whereas Sega Japan were a bit more selective.
They had Batman Forever, the arcade game. I remember that game, and it was actually quite fun to play. Although it was the fighting collision was terrible. So you'd punch, and you'd literally punch past someone, but still connect with them. So,
just looking up what was the various places saying what the best graphics on the Saturn were, and apparently there's a game called Power Slave, which is by the looks of it, you're in Egypt or ancient Egypt, but with a gun and an LMG. So what's going on there? I don't know. Just take that, Pharaoh! Blam! But
looking up now, looks quite good actually.
Yeah, it's a 3D in the style of sort of your Quake kind of things. Because apparently they tried to get, or they did get Quake on there.
They did.
So obviously Quake, fantastic game, but it's a first-person shooter that had full 3D view, so it would have worked more like Doom. I think Quake would have. Did Quake have full 3D view?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
It had full 3D graphics.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking, because Dark Forces 2, Dark Forces was the first one where you could actually look up and down. I should know this because I've got Quake on the Xbox. But anyway.
Interestingly, though, it was only one player. Quake.
What, Quake? Oh,
you couldn't do net play because obviously the Sega Saturn had the, what was it called? The Sega Netlink compatibility. And... but yeah, it never
did that actually work?
It did. It did.
For what was it? Only certain games that
there was only certain games that could use it, and it was also over dial-up. Because when this was released, you were only getting the first days of.
No! You see, I remember playing. What was the first-person shooter I used to play? It was on PC, but over dial-up. that worked really well. It was Return to Castle Wolfenstein, and was it GOG or whatever? Someplace recently gave it. It's free to play. Anyway, and it's now compatible with modern systems. So I've actually played that recently. But yeah, I used to play that on dial-up, and that used to have. Granted, you weren't advised to go on certain servers if you only had dial-up. So you'd go on like the 8v8 servers if you're on dial-up, but you could still technically go on the 128 per servers with dial-up. Could you imagine like trying to send like the details of 128 different people and what they're doing? 64 v 64 over dial-up.
I used to play a Star Trek Quake-like game on dial-up. It was horrendous. 1 minute there'd be no one there, and all of a sudden there was someone would just jump out of nowhere,
or you just die.
Yeah. So interestingly, there was no Star Trek games on the Sega Saturn. That's
boo. Well, then again, Star Trek games have been really hit and miss. You've had some. I'm trying to actually think of the really great ones. I liked Bridge Commander.
Keep thinking.
I quite enjoyed that. There was a Megadrive game which I tried to play, but again, no instructions, so I didn't have a clue. Just got lost straight away. I'm sure there are good Star Trek games. I'm just not sure of them.
Yeah, that'd be an episode in itself, but won't last very long.
So was there any games that either of you have owned that you're like, oh God, that was just painful to play? Or did you? Was there any like sort of 20 out of 100 games?
I would say as much as Daytona was a must-have game, it was absolute crap graphically, because the machine couldn't cope with graphics like that. So it had to be drawn using line of sight. So all the
so you'd have real bad pop-up, would you?
Yeah, the kind of car structure kind of it was just really badly drawn, and the motion was clunky, and obviously it improved on the second release, but yeah, it was pretty bad to play. It wasn't enjoyable.
I had Sega Rally, which was good but really hard, so it was quite painful to play because of how hard it was.
Yeah,
that was quite
great Sega games, arcade games, but terrible. I mean, I'm just loving. I've got a worst games thing up right now, and now I think I'm right in saying that light guns were not compatible with Sega Saturn, were they?
Yeah, they were.
Oh, there was? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there was one, wasn't there, that was... there was a light gun game that wasn't compatible with a light
gun. I couldn't answer you on that one. I used to play Virtual Cop. In fact, there was actually Sega Saturn light gun, an official light gun. It was a blue gun. And that was used for... I can't remember the name of the game. It was like a digitized characters and full FMV game. But it was absolutely fine. There was Virtual Cop 2. There was Virtual Cop the original. There was House of the Dead.
Oh, I see. They had actual gun style ones. It wasn't the... what was the Megadrive one called? It was more like a bazooka, wasn't it?
It's called.
Was that the one that looked more like a bazooka?
No, the Super Nintendo had the Super Scope, and the Sega
was the one.
And then Sega had the Menacer gun.
Because I'm just looking up at the Sega Saturn light gun, and it looks pretty good actually. I'm sure I was reading up about a game earlier that was a port, and it wasn't compatible. So. What was the redeeming feature? Come on, what if you were back in 1996 and you were trying to get your friends to buy one? because so far we're going, yeah, that was okay. That was a bit rubbish. It was bloody expensive.
Oh, I think it was all the fighting games. So you had like Marvel versus I can't remember the name of them, but there was like
Capcom, Marvel superheroes versus
Marvel
Street Fighter.
Yeah, Street Fighter. All the 2D games worked really,
Darkstalkers
really well.
3.
Clockwork Knight was an amazing game. Very expensive game now.
Street Fighter Alpha 3.
Yeah.
Sega Saturn Bomberman. That was really good.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Virtua Fighters, which I don't know about you, but I always thought the Virtua Fighter, I don't know why it's got this classic label on it, because I just thought it was crap.
Yeah, I agree.
I like playing Virtua Fighter, and I like playing on Like a Dragon, because you can play Virtua Fighter on Like a Dragon.
Yes, you can, but it's probably because I never knew the moves or anything like that. But I don't know why. I sunk loads of money into the arcade game version of it many years ago, but no, I never liked it. I suppose again I'm comparing it to Tekken, which for me Tekken was absolutely outstanding. And then Tekken 2 and 3 came out, and each one just got better and better and better.
3 was amazing.
Yeah.
What was
That was the one with Tekken Bowling, wasn't it? Was it Tekken 3, the one with bowling? Was that Tekken Tag?
Yeah, because you could play it in pairs, couldn't you? You could have someone do the first go and then someone do the second go. To answer your question, Duncan, honestly, I can't think of any reason why in 1996, if you had a choice between a Sega Saturn, PlayStation 1, and 64, you would choose Sega Saturn, unless you wanted to play Virtual Fighter or Panzer Dragoon, because the other consoles were just, in my opinion, were just better.
Better, they were.
Primal Rage was a great game on the Sega Saturn.
Oh, was that the dinosaur fighting game?
Yeah. And Mortal Kombat was outstanding.
Yeah, well, then again, it was outstanding on the previous generation. So
true.
I mean, that was another thing that Sega had got, better than Super Nintendo. That you didn't have blood and guts and everything, and they basically went, "We've got blood and guts," and so loads of people bought Megadrive or SNES.
Although the sequels on the
they did start putting the blood in, and also the Super Nintendo did have I think it was Action Replay or something you could do.
But the sequels were better on the Super Nintendo than they were on the Mega Drive, without a doubt.
Yeah, you could get on the Saturn, you could get Mortal Kombat 2 and Mortal Kombat Trilogy. Although Mortal Kombat Trilogy was released in 1998, so quite late on.
You're only a few years away from the Sega Dreamcast, so it wasn't like,
a year away, wasn't it? The Dreamcast came out in 1999. But if I can remember at school, we'd have like the kids who thought they were like cool had the PlayStation, and then the kids who were different, like have the Sega Mega Drive, the Nintendo 64. They were like, "Oh, look, we're alternative because we got the Nintendo 64." And then maybe the weird kids had the Saturn.
When Christmas, you're like, "Oh, but Dad, I'm not one of the weird kids."
I don't know why my brother picked that out of the free console. I think because we had a Mega Drive, so he thought, well, the natural thing is to go from Mega Drive to Saturn, and then he realised quite quickly,
what have I done?
Terrible mistake.
Yeah, well, we've all done it. What was it? I bought the handheld Neo Geo Pocket. Was it Neo Geo Pocket Color? Neo Geo Pocket Color. Yeah, that was just a terrible purchase. Although, again, I think we talked about that, and I got it cheap. So, yeah. So, I presume if you were to buy a Sega Saturn today, it would be for the same reason as you've said already back in 1996. If you like side-on 2D beat 'em ups. It's got some great ones.
Yeah.
But you can probably get PlayStation 1 just as well.
Also, it's very difficult to emulate the Sega Saturn, isn't it?
Yeah, because of the 2 different CPUs.
Oh, okay.
So if you wanted to play Sega Saturn games on an emulator, I think there are some, but you don't get. It's not as good as, say, an emulator for the other consoles because of.
And it must be said, since they've gone to software only as well, they have been really good in bringing back their old stuff for reasonable prices if you want to legally own it. So you can get Sega Classics that has all sorts of things. Although I think which was one of the Yakuza games that came out recently had as well. Is it Daytona 2? Or is it one? I think it was Daytona 2. And it's the first time you've been able to play it legally for like about 15 years. So if you like all these games, again, I don't think you'd actually even buy one nowadays. I'm going to look at how much one costs.
I think they are expensive compared to the PlayStation and Nintendo 64. I think they're just rare, aren't they?
I think the PlayStation and the Nintendo 64 have aged worse than the Sega Saturn.
Sega Saturn video game console and accessories pre-owned £71, £100, £140, £130, £13.50. Although that's like 10 days left, and it's untested. So a bit hit and miss if you want to get one. Although, what's this?
I have looked at some, but they are more expensive than the N64 and PlayStation.
So you said there's an expansion port at the back, is there?
Yeah.
Tom?
Yeah, for memory, in it.
Yeah, apparently there's quite widely available on eBay is flash carts. So I'm presuming they say they're 128 gigabyte ones. So I'm presuming that they're using the expansion port. So there you go. If you get one, it looks like you can get all the games for free on a cart. Not that we'd advise that because that's probably illegal.
Unless you own every game.
Yeah, I mean, if they just supply the cart, then that's perfectly legal. But literally says Sega Saturn, all games, 128 gigabytes. I'm surprised these places. And it says it's from the UK seller. It's a UK-based seller. Huh. Well, anyway, that's Sega for you. It did. Oh, go on. Sorry.
I was going to say it probably could, if modded, play Megadrive games if it's capable of using a hacked cart. It means it probably was capable of playing the Megadrive cartridges as well, but wasn't open to do so.
Well, I can imagine if it was to expand the RAM, then yeah, obviously it could. I'm talking as a not very good but techie person, but somebody a little bit, but very little. If it's to do with expanding the RAM, then obviously that could pretend to be the RAM and insert things into the RAM so it thinks that the game is in the memory. I don't know. These things are how it works. I don't know, but the fact that it's expanding the hardware means it probably was quite easy with modern abilities to hack. Well, you don't even need to hack it. It probably just goes, oh yeah, it's a load of games. Right. Well, what can we say about the Saturn other than that? Other than
what was the point?
Yeah, it's more expensive even now than the N64, so get an N64. It was lower powered than the PS1, so get a PS1. It had worse versions of games than the PS1 and the N64, so get either of them too. And it wasn't backwards compatible with the Megadrive, so
But neither was the N64 backwards compatible.
No, it was not. Yeah.
And I would say about the PlayStation, but that was its first ever console, so it'd be hard for it to be backward compatible.
Yeah, and although hang on, didn't the N64 was cartridge based? So did the N64 have like the Super Nintendo have like a Game Boy adapter?
N64.
You could buy one which you could put in your controller, a Game Boy adapter, and you could play like Pokemon Red on your TV or something. For your, I think you could buy Pokemon Stadium, and it would come with the adapter with it.
Okay, that'd be good.
In your controller, put Pokemon Red or whatever, and then it would come up on your TV, and you could play.
Oh yeah, I'm just looking at that, and you could have a game booster as well. Oh, I think it was basically a knockoff Game Boy adapter.
Then they had their own little expansion pack, didn't they? Which meant you could play certain games. You could only play with the like Majora's Mask and.
What you had to, so they had an expansion pack similar to what Saturn wanted to have.
Donkey Kong 3D, yeah, you stuck it in the front.
Was that in the controller or in the
actual console? So the console had a thing already in it, and then
you could slot one in.
You would take it out. But there was like certain games which you couldn't play, like Perfect Dark, Donkey Kong 64, and Majora's Mask were the three that I can remember, which you had to have the expansion pack, and it just meant the game was a bit...
So I suppose in a way, Nintendo succeeded with something that Sega wanted to do as well. You know, they had an expansion slot, and they probably would have had better versions of games or games that they couldn't do with the basic hardware. And it's just that they failed and
I think
couldn't do it.
Our chat is we can see why it wasn't a success, because it was had less sales than the Dreamcast, and people always think this Dreamcast was a failure, but the only reason the Dreamcast was its last console is because it came after the Saturn, and they had two sort of failures in a row, which just meant
the 32X and the Saturn just there was all. It's another one of these things where if somebody, people would have done the story of Sega, and I have read it before. I can't remember it all off by heart, but there's plenty of. It could be one of these Netflix special drama, things, and it was complete failure on management part, not knowing what to do. And the price was ridiculous. The games were not the best, and led to the Dreamcast, which was a brilliant piece of kit.
I know. I think when we did a Dreamcast special, we were really positive about the Dreamcast.
We were. I think everybody who had one enjoyed it, and I think I loathed to get rid of it when I got rid of mine. Because it was like, I really enjoy the games. I really enjoy the controller. It's online, so I can connect to the internet, and I can play with people, or I can download things and things like that. And even the VMUs were great. And you don't have that with the Saturn. The Saturn was just a black box that had some few games on it, and it there's nobody that I've ever met that has a rose-tinted spectacles about the Sega Saturn.
I only sold my Dreamcast like 2 weeks ago. So
great thing.
Lovely.
Choo Choo Rocket. Oh, such a good game. that came free. Choo Choo Rocket came free with the console, didn't it?
In some versions, yeah.
I think I got Choo Choo Rocket with it. What came free with the Saturn? Do you know anything?
Probably Virtual Fighter.
Demo disc, I think it was.
Was it just a demo disc?
I'm sure.
Virtual Fighter came free with it. I think Virtual Fighter did.
Sega Saturn. I'm just having a quick look. What came free with that? I can't find out. But yeah, I can imagine quite quickly. Yeah, it would have been a Sega first party one like Virtua Fighter or Virtua Cop or whatnot.
I think it was just a disc, honestly, with some demos on it.
Sure.
I think in Japan it came with Virtua Fighter, I think it's why it was quite successful.
There was various packs that came out. Sort of when it was declining, the 3 free pack came out, which bundled the Saturn with Daytona, Virtua Fighter 2, and Virtua Cop. Yeah. But that was when the PlayStation had already started out selling it. Yeah, so I can't find anything else about what came free with it. Then again, I mean, the PlayStation 1, unless you got obviously a bundle from a set seller, it didn't come with a free. It came with a demo disc as well, didn't it? Because I remember getting that Tyrannosaurus Rex to do various things, to roar it.
Either GoldenEye or Super Mario 64, wasn't it?
Okay, you had a choice.
You could get the GoldenEye with the box of James Bond on the front, and then see the standard one was Super Mario 64, but then they brought out the console with GoldenEye. So.
Excellent. Well, there you go. I think with 2 weeks in a row, we've just gone, here's a console that we're going to talk about. It's crap. Don't buy it. If you go back in 30 years, don't buy it. Nobody else will. It's bloody expensive and it doesn't get the support. So what are we going to pick next week then? Neo Geo Pocket?
Well, break a trend.
Well, hopefully, I think we are coming to the week. This is going to be released on Monday, Monday the 28th. So we recorded this before you've got the new Call of Duty. Then I've looked up a load of games that were coming out this week, but yeah, there's quite a few games coming out in the next week, so we might have some modern things to talk about. And I did mention this last week, and I presume you have heard it, Martin. Your annoyance at not being able to play Call of Duty via the cloud, as of tomorrow, when we're recording this, you will be able to play Call of Duty via Modern Warfare 3 and Black Ops 6 and Warzone via Xbox Cloud Gaming. Just as you get an Xbox console.
I was going to say, it doesn't matter anyway. So, it's nice.
So Martin is now going to be an Xbox hardware owner, mostly because he got it free. But yeah, so welcome to the dark side.
Yeah, I'm happy for those who just stream, because it means that
it does mean you're getting the, I want to say, the 1 terabyte Series S.
Yeah.
Oh, so you will have the space for a Call of Duty, because I tried to download just Black Ops 6, and it wouldn't let me. It would only let me download everything that was in Call of Duty. You can then strip it down, but 270 gigabyte I had to download.
God.
And that wasn't actually everything. That wasn't the Modern Warfare, like the 2020 version or whatever it was. Modern Warfare 2, any of the parts of that, that was just Modern Warfare 3, Warzone, and Black Ops 6. So if I downloaded Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2, I dread to think it probably would have been nearly 400 gigabyte. Fortunately, I'm on 1 gig speed, so it wasn't a problem. But my goodness, yeah, because you can go with Xbox. You can go to manage storage and what you download for Call of Duty, but it wouldn't work for some reason, some server problem. So I just had to leave it to download. 270 gigabytes.
Now, so you won't have to think of it. Nice.
It comes out tomorrow, and there'll probably be a day one patch of 100 gigabyte anyway. So I don't know why I'm bothered. At least I don't have to download any patches for Modern Warfare 3. And yeah, so if you want to talk about anybody been playing any horror games recently or scary games?
Nope.
No, just me then. I did actually stream. If you look on the Focus on Gaming Twitch, the Alan Wake 2, the Lake House DLC. So it's sort of the main DLC that it's released for the game about a year after it came out. So I played through that. That was suitably scary. You have these paint monsters that come out of paint on the walls that grab you and literally hold you up by your neck. If you're low on energy, they just grab you by the neck, hold you up by the neck, and
lovely
crack your neck. Lovely, yeah, delightful. They were suitably terrifying, but not enough for me to turn off. So I did complete it. It's good. It's a good DLC. Is it worth? Again, it's 2.5 hours, 3 hours. So it's not. Don't pay full price for it. You do get 2 DLCs with the expansion pass, but the other one is more of a horde mode. Not horde mode, but it's just you walk in an area, you shoot about 4 enemies. You walk to another area, you shoot 4 or 5 enemies. You walk to another area, shoot 6 enemies, and then read things and have a little bit of a story. But this one was a proper. If you like Control, it reminded me a lot of Control, but with the Alan Wake kind of thing. I don't know if you played Alan Wake 1. Played Alan Wake 1? Either of you?
No.
Well, what you have to do with enemies, you have to shine a light at them, which makes them vulnerable. And then once they're vulnerable, you have to shoot them. And so that's it. And yeah, it was all right. It's a as a DLC, that's probably 20 quid for the pair of them. I'd give it a 7 out of 10.
There's a Sonic game out tomorrow.
Yeah, Shadow X Generations, isn't it?
I don't know why they would decide to launch on the same day of Call of Duty, but
well, I think people who don't like Call of Duty will definitely be people who would like Sonic. But it is a more or less a remake or a remaster with extra bits of, I think, 2013 Sonic Generations that came out on Xbox 360, PS3, and all that. Which was a fantastic game. I don't know if you played it. It had 2D and 3D elements, and it was like a trip through the history of Sonic, which at that point was 11 years younger than it is now. But yeah, so it was if you can pick up Sonic Generations cheaper, yeah, get that. Yeah, but apparently it's fantastic. Yeah.
And at the end of this month, in a week's time, the new Dragon Age is out. So a lot of people like Dragon Age.
Yeah, the embargo is actually on the day that the review embargo, I've looked it up, is on the day that this podcast comes out. So we can't look at the reviews, but it's another one of these ones where if the reviews are really good, I really want it.
Yeah, I played Dragon Age. No, I think we played all of them. I think the second one was the one I enjoyed the most. It was Origins. Was that the second one?
Yeah, I mean the second one was there was no. Hang on, no, I'm all confused now. Which ones they are? But yeah, Dragon Age 2. That was easily the best. Dragon Age Inquisition got
that was the last one, wasn't it?
That got bad rap, but it wasn't that it was a bad game. It was a bit like Mass Effect 3. Mass Effect 3 wasn't a bad game. It was just not as good as 2.
Yeah. And
it had some issues with the ending.
But I haven't liked the look of the trailer, the new Dragon Age. And it came out on the showcase. It just, I don't know.
Yeah, it's got a different art style, but there has been some hands-on that have come out, and so far, there's a lot of people quite liking it. So I'm optimistic.
EA are hit and miss.
Well, it's BioWare. So BioWare, them of Anthem and what was the other one that they did recently?
Anthem's not a great.
Yeah, exactly. So they had so many good games. So many good games. And then
did they do the what's it called? The one with where it's underwater. It's like based in the 60s, I would say.
Oh, BioShock. No, that wasn't. They've done Mass Effect. They've done Dragon Age, Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic, Baldur's Gate 1 and 2.
Okay, they have done some.
I mean, they're an absolutely amazing company that have been really good. And then Dragon Age Inquisition and Mass Effect Andromeda, people didn't really like because they were slightly different, but they were more the same. They were still really good games. But then they brought out Anthem. And basically, I think EA went, no, we want a live service game. And they're not a live service game company. they're a epic RPG, action RPG, turn-based kind of big story company that needs probably 6 or 7 years to create a game minimum. And Anthem was not a BioWare game. So I got Dragon Age of Vanguard. Hopefully that's going to be good. 31st of October, I think. Yeah. And so it's been in development for about 6 or 7 years. And they are also developing, which we've heard nothing about it, a new Mass Effect. So there is going to be another Mass Effect game. But if it takes 6 years, that probably is another 2 or 3 years away. So,
will Dragon Age come out on EA Play or?
It will come out. Well, there might be a trial if you've got EA Play, but no, it won't. It won't be on EA Play probably for at least, I would say, almost 10 months or more. I would say for a big budget one like this, unless it's really poorly received. Oh, Martin's disappeared. Tom's disappeared. Yeah, so
he's got bored.
I think by the looks of it, he froze, so he had some connection problems. Anyway, so so hopefully, if it's well received. Well, actually, not hopefully. I do want to play a good game, but if it's well received and it sells really well, it'll be longer till it's on EA Play. If it's really poorly received, we'll probably get it another one in maybe, I don't know, 6 to 8 months. And he's back.
Are we looked on this day? Was there any Sega Saturn games out on this day?
Let's
finish off the episode.
On this day, let's have a little look.
Probably not. No, not luck.
Right. Not on the day that we're recording this. No. Not looking too good. Not looking too good. Because it came out 30 years ago. So, nope, not the previous day either. Sega CD 31 years ago. VAY. VAY. Never heard of it.
No.
Nope.
I'm going next day. You're going previous.
I'm going previous day. Yeah. No, it's still nothing.
I not anything yet.
The thing is, there wasn't actually that many games released for it anyway. So
don't. I think I'm on a roll now. So
Committed.
I'm committed to the thing. Although apparently
I'm 5 pages in and found nothing so far.
I will find one game.
This is the most exciting podcast ever. It's us just flicking through previous days on game FAQs on this day.
Jet Set Radio came out for Dreamcast 24 years ago.
Yeah, I've had about 3 or 4. Oh. I mean, the Sega CD came out on October the 15th, 32 years ago.
Ooh. I found a game.
Hey!
Tomb Raider came out 28 years ago.
Oh, there you go. There you go. A major game as well. Fantastic.
1996. What a year.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a battle, isn't there, about the best year of gaming. And I think for me, it was always 1997. Because there were so many good games in 1997.
It's a very
they certainly weren't Saturn games. October the 14th, 26 years ago, Grim Fandango. Easily one of the best point-and-click games of all time. You know point-and-click games? The games that you two hate.
Yep.
See, listeners, we've had a little thick discussion about having subjects. And one subject I'd love to talk about is point-and-click games. But these two never played any of them.
We're just not going to show up one day and you can just fill your boots.
Well, I mean, I do talk a lot anyway, so...
Maybe I'll play Grim Fandango on Game Pass. If we
well, the remastered version is a lot more user-friendly than it was, because there was one section where you had to put a signpost and you had to put it almost pixel perfect in the original PC version. And it was really hard. And even just the guides would just be like, just keep picking it up, putting it down, picking it up, putting it down, picking it up, putting it down. And yeah, eventually you found it, but I think they made things like that a bit easier. But I mean, you've got classics, Monkey Island ones, all the Scum VM games, all the classic ones.
God, horrific.
And story. I mean, I am a story lover. Yeah, I love a good story. I'm a lover, not a fighter. Hence why I play more story games than Call of Duty.
Maybe we should play Silent Hill 2, the remake.
I would love to. Are you going to buy it for us? Konami, if you're listening, we would like, an Xbox code, a PlayStation code, and another Xbox code, please. That'd be great. We will. I'll tell you what, Konami, if you're listening, we will guarantee a 10 out of 10 if it's free. No, we do have morals, but apparently it is absolutely excellent. Anyway, on that note, we found a game. Tomb Raider was released in about a week's time, 30 years ago. No, 28 years ago.
I'm still looking for other games, and I'm in November the 8th.
Right, so if you want to hear any other episodes, there are all the episodes are back up to listen to. I am still having to upload new episodes to a different place because you can't upload anything to archive. But all our old episodes are back. So focusongaming.co.uk and like, subscribe, leave a review and all that kind of stuff. And like and subscribe. And thank you, Tom. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you, Duncan.
And on that note,
goodbye.
Bye.